is we do understand their perspective because we were there. I've experienced the loneliness that I didn't have family. When I got around Carlos, one of the guys I grew up with, one of my closest friends back in the day, that was my crime partner. When I did something, we hung out, we went everywhere together. We joined the gang together. You know what I'm saying? We were recruited together. We always hung out together. So for me, one of the biggest draws is a sense of family and belonging. The second, I think, is security. A lot of people live in rough neighborhoods. Indiana is not so bad. I'm speaking more perspective from Chicago and Hammond. But I don't think it's as prevalent or as hard as it is in Chicago, but there is an issue here because it is getting worse here. I see it getting worse here. And it is migrating more this way to Indiana, into Lake County, it's going into Porter County. People want a sense of security, and if they can get security, especially with the bullying going on. You guys ever heard of World Star? You guys it's a website where they show all the fights. It's just a fighting website. I look at now, when I go and I speak at schools and I talk to young people, I see the callousness in this generation. I think it's more callous now than it was when I was growing up. We just had a thing in Florida where a young lady was raped in front of an entire crowd of people and nobody did anything. Nobody stepped in, they're desensitized to it. This generation, I feel, is like that. Extremely like that. There's no compassion anymore in this generation. I don't see it. When I go speak at schools or when I talk to young people, the things that they would do now, you had a conscience back in the day. Today, it seems like they don't think, they just respond and do. What we want to do with Reclaim Our Kids is this. We approach it from this point of view. We want to change the way they think. We want to change the way they see things. I always tell people this, I can never ever change your life until I first change the way you think. I can't. If I don't change the way your thought process works, I can't change the way, because your thoughts determine your actions. And when we do Reclaim Our Kids, is we go in and we speak to them one-on-one, we do a mentorship program, and we get with the young woman, the young lady, or the young man, and we speak into their lives. And my biggest thing when I speak into their lives is I want them to understand consequence. I want them to understand cause and effect. That if you do a certain thing, there's always an effect to it. One thing in this society that's glorified is the gang lifestyle, it's the rapper lifestyle. It's glorified. And when it's glorified, but they don't ever show the flip side to that. I tell people, when I was getting locked up, and I've been in jail a lot, I've been locked up for attempt murder, I've been locked up for gun possession, I've been locked up for drug possession, selling drugs. During that whole time I was locked up and going to jail, when you're doing that and you're out, it seems like it's a exciting lifestyle. It does. The reason why you do it is because there is some fun to it. You do make a lot of money. But the flip side to it is they never tell you about when you're sitting in a jail cell. Nobody talks about that. Nobody talks about when you're in jail and you're separated from your family. Nobody talks to you about when your family is suffering because now you're not there to make money or your family's paying because you're trying to bond you out, you're paying your lawyer fees. Nobody talks about the economic cost to it. Nobody talks about how the hurt that a mother feels when she loses somebody. Or when a young lady gives herself to a bunch of men because she's trying to fit in. And the emptiness and the loneliness and how she feels after that. And her reputation after that. So what we're doing here for Reclaim Our Kids is we want to go in, we are going in, and we talk to them one-on-one, and we relate to them. We let them know that somebody does care, that there is a difference, there's an alternative to what you're doing. And we try to tell them by our lives and our example, this is what we went through, this is what it cost me. I've been locked up. And I've missed my girls growing up. I have 6 daughters. Right now, I'm gainfully employed. I've been employed at Ford Motor Company for 22 years. I'm a supervisor, and the way I became that is this. I was a gangbanger, and I remember one day I was talking with a friend, and they were recording, video recorders. We had a video recorder, and I remember one day I was sitting there, and they were videoing the party we were at, and they played the video back to me one day, and I remember listening to how I spoke. And I was embarrassed by how I articulated myself. I was very embarrassed. And I remember looking at that and being like, man, that's how I speak. This is how I talk. This is how people hear me. But this is all I need. It's all I need. It's what I grew up in. It's the neighborhood I grew up in. It's just the way we articulate ourselves. What changed my life is one day my brother-in-law came to my house. I was married. And he came to my house one night and he told me, he said, listen, I want you to come with me. I want you to meet some people. He goes, because what you're doing, you're destroying your family. It's a dead end. And I told him, all right. We went, and it was a church. It was a church gathering. And I went and I heard one of the speakers, and it impacted me. I mean, I wasn't really into church and all that, but it impacted me. What he told me impacted me. And after we started hanging around more, I remember going to, his name was Rob Thompson. I remember going to his house, and he had a beautiful home, beautiful cars. And he sat down, and I remember, I'd never seen homes like this, not from where I grew up. And I remember walking around his house, and I said, this is nice. And I remember his wife seeing the look on mine and my wife's face when we saw what he had. And I was like, dang. And she laughed, and she was just laughing because of my amazement. I had never seen anything like this. And I remember him sitting me down, and him telling me, he said, listen. And he told me where he came from. He came from modest means. He came from south of Chicago, too. And he told me what he did to become successful. And he told me, he said, listen to me. He said, many people want what I have. He said, but not everybody's willing to pay the price I paid to get it. And that's what we do when we Reclaim Our Kids. Is we tell them, listen, you don't have to, you can continue this lifestyle, but there's a cost to this lifestyle. And it's written every day. If you're living in a neighborhood, listen, go to Chicago, go to Hammond, go to Garrett. I'll show you a person I grew up with. And I'll show you where they're at now, who kept making the same decision and kept the same lifestyle. And I'll show you where they're at today. They don't have anything. There's nothing to show for their lives. They're either strung out, they're locked up, or they're dead. Because that's the only avenue. And that's what we need to get our kids to see. If that's the avenue, if you choose this is the end result. What changed my life is I got with Rob and I got with Mark Friend, and they began to mentor us. Me and my wife, they mentored us. They sat us down and they taught us. They took time with us. And they refathered me is what they did. They refathered us. They sat us down and they explained cause and effect to us about seed time and harvest. Whatever you put in today into the ground, that's what your tomorrow is going to be. That your life, there was a quote that he gave me once and it changed my life. He said, success and failure are not destined. He said they're destinations determined by your choices. That's what they are. Whether you're successful or you're a failure is determined by the choices you make.